Hey guys, Katy here, and today we're going to be making cherry Jubilee earrings. The cherry Jubilee earrings are one of my favorite pieces of jewelry to make. There's something about the playfulness and just the color that makes me happy, and everyone that I've taught to make these really enjoys it too. I love making them with red beads, but you can also do them with pearls or any other beads that you have on hand in your stash. Let's go over the tools and materials that we will need for this project. Chain nose plier, nylon jaw wire straightening plier, a flush cutter, a flat nose plier, a pair of ear wires, 16 and 24 gauge wire, about 1.5 feet of each, a flat file, a chasing hammer, a bench block, and finally, you will need beads. These are 12mm round beads, and then I have 2 little dagger beads. Also, it's handy to have a ruler. Okay, let's get started. First of all, we're gonna cut the 16 gauge wire, and we're gonna use a flush cutter. So cut 2 6-inch pieces. They don't have to be exact because we will trim the tails later. Now grab your flat nose plier and bend both pieces in half. Next, with your fingers or with your nylon jaw plier, flare each tail out. Like that. Now we're going to figure out the length of each earring. And this part is really up to you. If you want them to be really long, you can keep them this length, but I always love to make one stem shorter than the other. And I'll show you how to do that. Just temporarily slide on 2 beads for one earring and lay it on your surface. And sort of play with where you want them to be. I really enjoy that. I think that looks great. So I'll be trimming the wire about 1/4 inch underneath each bead. So while the beads are on, we're gonna cut. And just for reference, that's a little less than 2 inches is the short one, roughly, and that's roughly 2.5. So now you can take your beads off and cut the other one to be exactly the same length. You want to make sure also that you get a nice flush cut here, so use the back side of your flush cutter. So now we're going to slide on each cherry bead one at a time and paddle out the end with our bench block and hammer. So slide on 1 bead here and let it slide all the way up to the top. And with your domed chasing hammer, you create a paddle at the very end of your stem. And you want to make sure that you make it big and you hammer it enough so that your bead doesn't slide off. Just keep checking it as you go. Yay. So now we're going to do the next one. Just work at the very tip of the stem and kind of push out the metal as you hammer. Okay. So you can see that I hammered a little bit too much, and that sometimes happens. You can always adjust if you want to. So now I'm going to move this cherry up just a hair. I'm going to hammer a little bit more on this side. And now I'm going to just cut. Underneath that cherry and underneath that cherry. So this is a great point to grab your flat file and curve out those little paddles. Just file gently so that it's rounded and not sharp. I think that looks really cute. Also, it won't poke you when you're wearing them. And then do the other side. Make sure you move your cherry out of the way. Okay, so once you're happy with that, you are going to hammer the top part of your earring, which is going to give it strength, and it's going to flatten the edges so that you can wire wrap your dagger bead on. So just hang your cherries off the end of your bench block and start at the crease. And just work your way down each stem. You don't have to hammer as hard as you did for the paddles here, but this is just to give it, to give you a great space to wrap onto. So I finished my first earring, and now I'm going to make another one exactly like this. Since I had to trim one of the earrings, the first one up, I'm going to remeasure the second one to make sure that it's similar in length. So I'm just going to trim about 1/4 inch off of each stem. Now that I've hammered out both earrings, I'm going to make sure the shapes are similar, and if you want, you can bend your shorter stem a little bit just for fun. And now we're gonna wrap our dagger beads onto the sides. Another thing I like to do with these earrings is make them go the opposite way. So make sure that when you're wrapping your dagger beads on, that you go ahead and know which side is the front and the back, because you always want to cut your wire at the back of the earrings so nobody can see it. And I also always wrap the dagger bead onto the shorter stem. So grab your 24 gauge wire, cut about 6 inches for each earring. So grab your earring, and we're going to start from the inside of the corner and wrap down. So we're gonna do 3 wraps, add the bead, 3 wraps. Always leave yourself a tail. And go 1, 2, 3. And then you're gonna add your bead. And then once you've added your bead, just continue with your wrapping, but let the bead come out to the side like that. Just kind of let it fall where it wants, and then pull your wire down and continue to wrap 3 more times. You can use a tool or your hand to kind of keep those wraps together, and then trim in the back with a flush cutter. And bring that original tail back to the back side as well. And cut that. And make sure you tuck in those ends with your chain nose. So now I'm going to do the other one. And remember, we do opposites. Okay, so now that we have wrapped our dagger beads on, all we have to do is attach our ear wires. And these are made from 20 gauge wire. Just open up the loop of whatever ear wire you choose, slide it straight on to the piece, and twist it closed. And do the same with the other. And we're done. Okay, so here's what they're gonna look like on. This is the length that I made today, but it's always up to you. And don't forget that you can always use whatever beads you have on hand. Now let's go back over the materials and supplies we used to make these. We used chain nose plier, nylon jaw plier, flat nose plier, flush cutter, a flat file and a chasing hammer, a bench block. We used 12mm round beads, the red ones, and a little dagger bead for the leaves, a pair of ear wires, and finally 16 and 24 gauge wire. If you need to pick up any of the tools or supplies we used today, check out the links in the description below. What kind of fruit jewelry would you want to make? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And now that you know how to make cherry Jubilee earrings, you can say, I made this.